This is a hell of a betrayal of the American people when you will not tell them the truth because you're afraid that if you tell the truth, your bosses will take your job from you. That's a hell of a thing. You don't have a democracy when you don't have a free press.
In a blatant show of hatred toward black independent thinking, white supremacists have worked to silence any voices that disrupt the stranglehold of white supremacy.
Just into CNN, Facebook is purging several high-profile names from its platforms. Among them, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, right-wing.
Just as they prohibited blacks from reading during slavery, they forced scholars and thinkers from reading materials that prove beyond doubt the integral Jewish role in the transatlantic slave trade.
Don't let no Jew get up in your face and make you cry for him. Ask him what happened with his forefathers when our forefathers were being brought over here as slaves.
Since none of their scholars have been able to defeat the truthful facts that Minister Farrakhan shares, they've now pressured Amazon to ban the scholarly books of the Nation of Islam's research department titled The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Oh, American leaders are coming down on scholars and professionals who are willing to address critical issues in public. Thinkers like Sister Tamika Mallory and Dr. Mark Lamont Hill were attacked because of their association with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And our sisters like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are being lambasted just because they were critical of Israel's racism. Even our great author Alice Walker and activist Angela Davis, writers Michelle Alexander and several others have caught a whole lot of flack from Jewish leaders lately, just because they had the nerve to acknowledge how some white Jews have been racist toward other people.
That's not criticism. That's at this point anti-Semitism.
Even white scholars like Michael Hoffman and Ron Unz are being castigated for having the nerve to acknowledge the truth and noble works of Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Have you caught on to the pattern yet? There's an adage that states, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize.
And some of them blue-eyed Jews are going to walk away from here and say that I'm saying something anti-Semitic, anti-hell.
These thinkers are starting to get a small glimpse of what Brother Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam have been enduring for several years. After all, his telling the truth about Israel is what caused Jewish leaders to forward a decades-long assault against him and the Nation of Islam.
Because liars and deceivers are tricking our people day in and day out. You see it, you know it, but you can't say it. You can't write it. But I can. And that's the difference between a free black man and some controlled black people. That's the difference.
See, the evildoers fear our exposure to the right knowledge, which brings about certain actions, just as Nat Turner and the various slave rebellions occurred when they acquired more knowledge of the enemy's identity. So the white ruling class has set parameters to ensure that certain knowledge would never reach the mind of black people. This was to safeguard white rule.
Individuals to be dangerous is what Facebook is saying. Those individuals include Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who has a history.
That's why every leader who rose to enlighten Black America has been targeted by the American government and other organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and several others. The enemy trumped up charges against Marcus Garvey's movement, and he was convicted by Jewish jurors and a Jewish federal judge, Julian Mack. They called W.E.B. Du Bois anti-Semitic simply because he reported how Jews were exploiting blacks throughout the South. They pressured him to change his language in later publications of his own work to safeguard the Jewish image. It was Jewish NAACP leader Joel Spingarn who attacked Booker T. Washington when he urged blacks to own land and acquire wealth in the early 1900s. See, independent black wealth violates their Talmudic principles that devalue the lives of black people and non-Jews. This explains why ADL leaders claim that blacks supporting black businesses is anti-Semitic. Yet we and the American people are forced to have our tax dollars fund the racist criminal activities of Israel. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his student Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all progressive black thinkers faced Jewish backlash and the sting of the anti-Semitism charge when they wanted to do something independent from white control.
That's at this point anti-Semitism.
Dr. King was killed under the watch of hateful Jewish mayor Henry Loeb of Memphis. Malcolm was killed in the custody of the Jewish-owned and controlled Audubon Ballroom, which cooperated with undercover NYPD informants to facilitate Malcolm's death. Now you see the pattern, right? To prove their hatred of black independent thinking, powerful groups have worked to silence any voices that disrupt their stranglehold of white supremacy. Hence, they banned Minister Farrakhan's Facebook and Instagram accounts.
They're being banned for spreading, quote, dangerous ideology. CNN Business.
Since none of their leaders or scholars have been able to refute the facts Minister Farrakhan presents, they've now pressured Amazon to ban the scholarly books of the Nation of Islam, hoping you won't read and be enlightened. In other words, you don't have a right to even think for yourselves today, especially when it comes to facts that expose the real racists who have a stranglehold over world affairs.
And my people can never be free as long as thought control, mind manipulation is practiced by people in the media, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Whenever oppressors work this hard to keep you from reading or learning something, that should clearly let you know there's something in it that can empower you to overcome their deceptive grip. Stay connected with us and let's build our own reality.